If you've been subscribed for a while and have been watching my videos, or in my Discord, you might know that I've recently added a Fanatec handbrake and shifter to my setup. And if you haven't been subscribed or in my Discord, then, well, I recently got a Fanatec handbrake and shifter. Today, I want to test out these two pieces of equipment in a realistic way, so we're hopping on the new EA WRC Rally game to do so. This game includes a vast selection of cars from different eras, including cars from today like the Ford Puma Rally1 Hybrid, or iconic Group B and Group A cars like the Lancia Delta Integrale. I'm going to use these two cars to test my new handbrake and shifter, and we'll be doing that at Rally Estonia. Alright, at the start line at Rally Estonia, we're in our Lancia Delta Integrale, and I'm going to have a pedal cam and a shifter slash handbrake cam in the top right of the screen, so you'll be able to see the footwork and the shifting as we go through. So 5 red lights are on, and releasing the handbrake, and we're off for the first of our 8.6 kilometer stage completely on gravel, already slamming through the gears, and actually surprisingly having pretty good traction. This car is 4-wheel drive, which makes it a little bit easier to drive than rear-wheel drive in my opinion. But coming up towards this square left, gonna pull the handbrake right here around the hay bale, and that's a nice looking drift right here. So this car is a, it does have a clutch pedal and a 6-speed, H pattern manual transmission, so it is going to be a little bit tricky once we get towards the more technical parts of this stage to be shifting up and down the gears, and then also managing, the clutch and, the proper amount of gas and brake and everything. So hopefully everything goes well. We don't end up flying off the track. But braking into this kind of 3 left right here, this part is a little bit tricky. It's kind of snaky, really, tight back and forth right there. Cutting the corner just a little bit to make it through there. Up the jump and immediately into a 2 right followed by a 1 left. So this is definitely still really tight. Using the handbrake right there just to get the back end kicked out a little bit. That's exactly what we're going to have to do for here. A 2 right turning into a 1 right, so it tightens up at the exit right here, and pulling the handbrake yet again to kick out that rear end makes it so much easier to get around here with the proper handbrake. A little bit snaky right through here, and again another jump, and finally a little bit of a relief to get through that kind of back and forth section. A nice drift around that post on the left right there, and now it's going to open up a little bit more. We can kind of keep the throttle down and just go up through the gears and really get the speed worked up here. A huge jump, landing that a little bit close for comfort towards the tree line on the right, but luckily we make it without completely destroying the front end of this car. Another jump, perfectly centered landing right there by the bystanders, and they're getting a nice show right there. So, but pretty much keeping it in 4th and 5th gear here. We have another jump coming up, and this one looks to be a little bit off, a little to the left of the track right there, and luckily we can save it, get back on the gravel, and that was a little bit too close for comfort. But like I was saying, keeping it in 4th and 5th here, it kind of just really opens up. Obviously there's multiple jumps, but it hasn't really been too bad. Just braking right before the jumps and making sure the wheels are centered so we're not completely having to overcorrect upon landing, which is definitely not the easiest thing to do. But shifting down to 3rd right there and finally getting back up into 4th and 5th, going to open up yet again, and I believe we're approaching yet another jump. So there's a lot of jumps so far on this track, but keeping it pretty much dead center in the center of the gravel right here. A 3 right followed by a square left. Going to pull the handbrake here and see if we can get the back end kicked out a little bit. Unfortunately, a little bit too slow, I think, going into that corner to get a nice looking drift. But braking right here just before the jump, making sure we're not going to be completely off center upon landing. That would really be difficult to correct that one once landing back on the gravel. Another jump followed by a double 4 right and 4 left. Another jump, and this one is really sketchy, kind of sideways mid-air right there. Luckily landing and controlling the car well enough to keep it in the center of the gravel, not going completely off the track and smashing the front end to pieces. But it's still opening up quite a bit, so it's pretty nice and leisurely to just send it through here. Another jump, and we're almost around 3/4 of completing this stage. I do think we're actually making pretty good time right here. We haven't really had any mistakes besides just slow entries onto the hairpins and the square lefts and square rights, but so far doing really well. Another 4 left and 4 right coming up. Kind of these double 4 lefts and 4 rights are a little bit tricky sometimes, but we make it through with no problem. Another square left coming up, pulling the handbrake, trying to get that rear end kicked out, and unfortunately just going a little bit too slow, I think, when entering that square left to get the rear end kicked out. I've done that a couple times now, so I think I got to be a little bit more ballsy when I'm heading into those corners when I want to pull the handbrake and get that kind of drift initiated. But I'm just driving a little cautiously. I want to keep it in the middle of the track and make sure I don't have to restart once we're almost done. We're past 3/4 at this point now. 3 left coming up, braking into 3rd gear, and going a little bit wide on the exit here. The rear end kind of snaps out for just a second there at the very edge of that corner. Flying down this straight bit of road now, shifting up through the gears, and we're going to have yet another jump landing this one perfectly in the center of the track, and that's what we love to see. It's so satisfying to land dead center right on the gravel, but shifting down and braking for that left-hander right there. Didn't really have to do that, but it's definitely more of a cautious move to do so. I don't really want to send it as hard as I can and risk kind of flying off the track. But speaking of flying, a huge jump right there, landing on the front left tire. Luckily, no damage or puncture, but that was definitely very off balance in midair. Luckily, we can land and keep the car straight and not be kind of pulling left and pulling right to try to overcorrect. But really, really close to the finish line right now. We have the crest and then a 3 right. This is the final corner of the stage, and we're going to make it through with no problems, and we're going to set a 4-minute 58-second time, which I think is honestly pretty decent. I'm not really too sure what like the AI are setting or whatever, but I think that's a pretty decent time. Didn't really have any mistakes at any point throughout there, except for a couple slow entries here and there, and maybe a couple slow exits, but overall very balanced. And it was pretty fun driving with the gated manual. So we're going to have to switch this into sequential mode right now, and now we're going to be driving the Ford Puma Rally1 Hybrid. Alright, so we're going to be doing the exact same stage as the Group A car, except this time we're in the Ford Puma Rally1, sorry, and we're going to be testing out this sequential gearbox instead of the gated, H-pattern manual. So releasing the handbrake right now, we're off, and already shifting up through the gears. The sequential is so quick. The response time is so fast when you're shifting. It's completely crazy. So there's no need for a clutch pedal, but I'll get into that in a moment. But really good traction off the line right here. Really good launch. Absolutely flying. Feels so much faster than the Group A car. Pulling the handbrake around the hay bale, and that looks like a perfect drift. Very, very nice looking drift. Perfect use of the handbrake, and you couldn't really ask it to be prettier than that. But anyway, we are absolutely flying down this straight bit of road. It feels so much faster than the Group A car. You can even see it on the cockpit camera. It just looks insanely fast. So much faster. Braking hard now into the 3 left, downshifting into second gear. A little bit of oversteer on the exit right there, and luckily we can save it and overcorrect properly. Really attacking those corners, making sure we're cutting as much as we possibly can. Up the jump into the 2 right and 1 left. We're going to pull the handbrake right here on the 1 left. Hopefully we can get a nice drift, kick that rear end out, and that was perfectly executed. This corner is a little bit tricky. It's a 2 right that turns into a 1 right, so it tightens up at the very end. Pulling the handbrake, making sure we can kick out that rear end just a little bit. Now, right here is where we're going to really attack the corners, really rotate that front end in and cut that corner on the left, and really just dominating that section of twisty 1s and 2s left and right. That was an absolutely insane performance from this car. It's so responsive, it's so quick. And yeah, we're just absolutely flooring it through this kind of more open section. Really close call with the trees right there. It's a little bit more difficult to go through jumps with this car just because it's so fast. You have to brake a lot more than the Group A car. Still kind of off to the side, in midair and upon landing. So really, really have to brake a lot harder than the Group A car right before the jump. We can see making the same mistake as the Group A car, so obviously right there, that's driver error, clearly not anything to do with either of the cars. So that's clearly my own fault. Still getting a little bit sketchy on the landings with jumps right here, kind of sideways right here through midair and into that 3 left, and luckily we make it through. So the speed on this car is absolutely insane. You can watch from these camera angles flying through these kind of more straight, more open section. The 6s and the 5s are just too easy. It's so quick through here. It's so much more responsive. The steering even feels more responsive. It's just a completely different ball game than that Group A car. A little bit wide on the exit right there, kind of kicking the rear end out too much. Luckily, that square right kind of saves my ass. I can just pull the car back into the left, and it actually works out to go so wide on that 3 right. So luckily, we can make it through there. A couple more jumps coming up, and we're doing really good, keeping the car completely pinned to the center of the track. Absolutely flying with full traction. It's completely different than the Group A car. But speaking of a difference between this car and the Group A car, you can see on the pedal cam, I'm not using a clutch pedal whatsoever. So with the sequential gearbox, there is no need for a clutch pedal because it's done by actuators. So like I just said, there's no need for a clutch pedal, which actually makes it a little bit easier. The shifting is really, really responsive, and you don't really have to worry about, clutch in and then hitting that correct spot on the gated manual to, shift up and shift down. So it makes it a little bit easier and a little bit more responsive. But anyway, square left, pulling the handbrake, really nice drift right there, really kicking out the rear end, and pretty much on the grass at the very edge of the gravel right there. So that was exactly what we should have been doing in the Group A car, kind of being a little bit more ballsy, sending it into those square lefts and square rights, and finally we're doing that. So making really good time right now, you can see from the split, and unfortunately going a little wide right there is our first major mistake, and luckily with a little bit of overcorrection we make sure we keep the car on the track. So that was definitely a scary moment. That was the first major mistake from both this car and the last car. We haven't really had any major mistakes except for that one. So honestly, pretty good run so far. Absolutely flying up the jump and landing dead center on the gravel yet again. This car also has insane amounts of traction. It's so easy to drive. Flying past that hay bale right there. Actually getting pretty close to it. Another jump. Kind of off balance in midair right there, luckily landing straight, keeping the wheel straight, and another jump. This is where we landed off balance last time. We do it again, landing on that front left tire, and luckily this time it was a little bit less dramatic, and we can keep going on our way. A 5 right and a 5 left coming up, and this car eats those up. It's not even difficult in the slightest. But approaching the final corner of the lap, that 3 right, going a little bit wide. We're getting really, really close to that gate, and almost making contact with that big structure. I don't really know what that is, but we set a 4 minute and 36 second time, which is what, 22 seconds faster than the Group A car. So obviously, you know, the sequential shifting does have its benefits, but the only real difference between driving these two cars, obviously barring the differences in age, technology, and specs, is the transmission. As I said before, the sequential gearbox is carried out by actuators, which is hydraulic, so there's no need for a clutch pedal. This gives you faster response time from the gearbox and honestly makes it a bit more simple to drive. With the H-pattern shifter, you're required to use the clutch pedal, which honestly isn't very hard. It becomes second nature to kick the clutch in before shifting. The harder thing to manage is making sure you don't miss shift, especially when mid-corner or mid-drift when there's already so many other things to focus on. If you want to see more of these videos, especially with the pedal cam or the wheel cam, let me know down below in the comments or in my Discord, which is linked below. This video was super fun to record and edit, so definitely let me know if you want to see more. That being said, if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.